And if you know it, please do feel free to join in. And basically what it does is it's kind of, before any discussion or anything in life, to be honest, what we like to do is we like to set the goal in mind, We like to have a very clear goal of why we're doing what we're doing. And so when we sing this bhajan, what we're doing is we're trying to kind of have a meditation and understanding of what's the point of this discussion, what's the point of this human life that we're in, and yeah. So yeah, we'll sing first, and then we can discuss something. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari 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 Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gora Haribol 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 Nitai Gaur Haribol Nitai Gaur Haribol 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 Nitai Gaur Haribol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Shakacharya Astotar Tata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nantikoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Prihad Madanga Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. O glorious to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. O glorious to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. O glorious to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. O glorious to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. O glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Okay. So we'll have some discussion today on the Bhagavad Gita. Can you guys hear me okay or no? You can hear me? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Actually, maybe what we do is... sorry, could we maybe shut the doors? Is that okay? So, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we're reading from Bhagavad Gita today, and we'll try to have some discussion, and yeah, we'll try to make it relevant to our lives, just because I feel that I feel these scriptures they can have a big impact on our lives if it's just taken in the right way. So yeah, we're reading from Bhagavad Gita 145. So what I'll do is I'll read out the Sanskrit, or try to read out. It's not so great, so you have to tolerate me. But yeah, I'll read the Sanskrit, and then if anyone would like to also have a go at the Sanskrit, then we can go for the translation and purport. So yeah, okay. So Yadi mam apratikaram asastram sastrapannaya Darastarastra rane hanyust tanme she mataram bhavit. Anyone want to have a go at the Sanskrit? If not, that's okay, we can go. Anyone? No? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so then word for word translation. Yadi, even if, mam, me, apratikaram, without being resistant, asastram, without being fully equipped, sastra panaya, those with weapons in hand, and Dhritarashtra, the sons of Dhritarashtra, Rane, on the battlefield, Hanyu, may kill, Tat, that, Me, for me, Shemataram, better, Bhavet, would be. And translation by Srila Prabhupada. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Purport. It is the custom according to Kshatriya fighting principles that an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. Arjuna, however, decided that even if by the enemy in such an awkward position, he would not fight. He did not consider how much the other party was bent upon fighting. All these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. Okay, so we'll just recite some prayers before we start. And yeah, please feel free to join in. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. So firstly, thank you everyone for coming to the temple today and taking out your Saturday evening to come. We'll just have some discussion on this verse and see kind of are there any kind of practical takeaways, anything that kind of anything that's relevant to our own lives, so that our visit to the temple doesn't just become just a visit, but then it becomes something we can take home, we can contemplate, we can digest, and try to make some change in our life, you know? Okay. So I'll just give some context about kind of the scene and what's going on. And so what's basically happening is Arjuna's asked Krishna to basically bring him to the battlefield, to basically driving in between the two armies, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And he's basically asked him to bring him in between there. And then what he's then asked him to do is to see, okay, who's on the other side? Who's he about to fight? And so then what happens is he has to see all his family members, and he sees all his relatives, and he sees the people who have taught him how to fight. You know, imagine that you have to fight a battle, and the people who have taught you, your own teachers who are so affectionate, you have to fight against them. You know, so it's clearly a very difficult situation. And so then what happens is before this, there's a series of verses where what happens is Arjuna basically says to Krishna all the reasons why he thinks he shouldn't fight. Yeah, he's giving all these reasons about why I shouldn't fight, why it's not a good thing, what the repercussions of my fighting will be. It'll be sinful reactions because, you know, I'm fighting against the family, or I'm acting according to violence, or because I'll kill all these people, then the unprotected people of this world, the children, the women, they'll be exploited by the people who are there left over. So all these reasons that are being given by Arjuna, and what happens in the second chapter is Krishna basically just says that. He initially just starts and says, like, Arjuna, what are you saying? Like, this is not a person of your own conduct. And this just kind of really stood out to me because I guess the first thing I was thinking was we all kind of have this dilemma when we're kind of going through different situations, we're trying to make difficult decisions. And what tends to happen is our mind will come up with so many different reasons according to why I shouldn't do what's right. Isn't it? Or at least for my case, I've seen that a lot, where I'll come up with so many different reasons why, actually, maybe I don't have to do this now. Maybe I can do it some other time. You know, okay, it's not so important, I'll do it later. What's interesting is that a lot of the time we think that's our own dialogue. We think that's us speaking. But actually what's actually going on is in the Bhagavad Gita 15, chapter 15 verse, Krishna basically says that he gives the remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge to all living entities. So he's in the heart as Paramatma, and he's giving you that knowledge to make an excuse. Okay? He's the one who's actually informing you. Okay, you want to make it, you don't want to do it this way? Okay, that's fine. I'll give you all the knowledge and reasoning why you don't have to do this. You know? And so even when we come to scriptures, it's not actually us that has this knowledge. You know? It's not actually our knowledge. We may think we're very scholarly, we have all this knowledge, but actually it's not our knowledge. Actually it's Krishna's knowledge. And so what that means is when we read scriptures or we come in touch with these things, or even in the outside world, when you see people who are smart, intelligent and things like that, actually we should know that actually their knowledge isn't coming from them, it's coming from Krishna. Yeah. And this is very important because actually what this means is that And I'll give an example of why, I'll give an example of how this is the case. Have you seen people who are intelligent and they've been in situations where their intelligence fails them? Yeah? To be honest, we've all been in that situation. We've been in an exam or a test and our intelligence has failed us. Yeah, our memory's failed us. We say our memory, but actually it's Krishna in the heart. You know? He's not giving us that remembrance at that time. You know? So actually what this means is that when we come to hear the scriptures, we're just actually making an endeavor Our endeavor is to hear and try to understand. And the reason we make that endeavor in a specific way is because that's according to what Scripture said. You know, Scripture says that you should come and you should hear and you should try to inquire submissively and understand what's being said. And then by that, Krishna then sees the sincerity in the heart that, okay, this living entity, he wants to understand the truth. They want to understand the truth. And then that then becomes a permanent realization in the heart, you know. And so then what does this mean in terms of a permanent realization? What it then means is that we then act on that. Okay? So in this situation, we have this idea of Arjuna's giving all these excuses are coming up in terms of, okay, I shouldn't do it because of this, I shouldn't do it because of that. And then the question is, okay, how do we cut this chain? We understand that maybe there is something I need to act on, but we're not strong enough to do it. Then the question is, how do we reverse this around? How do we change this? And the one point that was coming to mind when I was reading this and just looking at the verses was that there's a futility in our faith, basically. And I'll go a bit more deeply into what I mean by that, but this point of futility in faith means that, okay, we may have heard something, we may even have experience of something. How many people in the room, and let's just try to be honest, how many people have been sure that if they get this one thing in their life, they'll be happy? And they put so much effort into it, they put so much hard strain into it, and when they get it, what happens? They get it and it goes like, oh, that was it? Or it's, oh, they feel relieved. They don't actually feel happiness, they just feel like, oh, okay, it's done, let me move on. We've all had that experience, no? Where we've got what we've been searching for so long. It can't even be years. People searching for years, decades, spend their whole life doing these things, and then they come to the stage where they may have got it, and they realize, oh, okay, that was it. And so we want to try to avoid that in our lives, you know? And the key thing is that even when we experience that, why is that even though when we experience that, we still go back to the same thing, no? Or we try to find different forms of the same thing, you know? It may be that, okay, we've pursued one thing and then it's not worked. Then we go again and we think, okay, maybe there's something else I can pursue. We're going along the same lines, but the point is we've missed the route. We've missed the route. And the route is that actually this material world, anywhere we look into it won't give us the happiness we're searching for, you know? And we may intellectually understand that. We may say we understand that, but then to the proof of the pudding is that how much do we act on that? How much do we actually act that I have realization that this material world won't make me happy? How much are my actions, how much is my life accordingly showing that won't make me happy? And so then the question is, okay, we may have some understanding. I'm sure everyone in this room has had some experience where they realize that, yeah, okay, this isn't the place for me. I need to find happiness elsewhere. What do? I have all these other things. I've got all these other things going on in my life. And I may look like a monk, shaved up and everything, but I live at home and I'm also looking for a job, so I'm like all of you guys. And so then the question is, what do we actually do in our situations, you know? And the things that were coming to mind was that this faith, how does it develop in us? How does this develop that there's this faith in something on the outside that can make us happy? Actually, it comes through this advertisement. And we would have all seen this in the world where we've been advertised so many things on the outside, whether it's our parents from a young age telling us certain things or their beliefs make us act in a certain way thinking that, okay, yeah, this will make me happy. Or maybe it's that we was around certain types of people and they had a similar kind of theme of that, okay, these things will make me happy. But now we've got to the chase of it and we've seen that, we reflected and seen that these things won't make me happy. We then need to kind of go back on the cycle and we need to first find people who are actually finding that happiness that we're looking for. And that's one of the reasons we come to the temple. One of the reasons we come to the temple is that we can meet saintly people, we can meet sadhus and we can experience that, okay, these people experience something which I want. There's a happiness they're experiencing which is beyond everything I'm looking for, and I need to get what they need. And so what this means is that we need to advertise ourselves to where the real faith is, okay? And this works, it's just like Krishna speaks about this, how do we develop this desire for something else? He speaks about this. He speaks about it in terms of the material world, but it can also be applied in terms of a spiritual desire. And what he says is that by contemplation on the senses, one develops an attachment to that thing, you know? And we've all experienced that, whereas there's something in this world that we want, we'll then contemplate it, we'll then be thinking about it all the time, and then there'll be a strong desire which we feel that we can't live without that thing anymore. That without that thing, it's all over. And that's how deep the desires and attachments can become. So similarly, when we come, we want to come to here. We want to advertise all our senses so that we can actually experience, we can develop a desire for the real thing. And so then actually what this, so just like all of you guys have come today, you've come to here. And what you're actually doing is you're being advertised something of a different level of happiness. You know, so you're hearing all these things, and ultimately what's meant to bring us to is to develop a desire for Krishna, for that relationship. Anyway, so yeah, the key to kind of developing this faith or this desire for something else is that we spend time with people who have those things. And that can either be through physical, you know, like we're doing now, we're having a discussion about something, about Krishna, or it can be through scripture. So by being with the sound vibration, you actually have the same impact. And we all experience this, even the material world, because we all watch YouTube videos, isn't it? We all watch YouTube videos of people who are successful in the world, and we develop the same desires that they have. Yeah? So similarly, that association goes on even when we're not in person. So same thing with spiritual life. We can develop the same desires just by associating with these people. Or even if it's hearing lectures. You know, YouTube's such a big thing, such a big distraction, but it can be used for a good source. If we hear lectures, if we hear classes, if we see certain people who have what we're looking for, you know. So that's one way we can try to start developing this faith. Yeah, and the scriptures are very nice because just like in this world, we all look for role models, no? When we look on a certain path for a certain success, we all have certain role models who kind of stand out to us in our hearts. You know, for me, I used to play a lot of cricket, so I was trying to be a professional cricketer, and for me, the all in all was like, okay, Virat Kohli. How do I become Virat Kohli? So the same bat, I got the same bats as Virat Kohli. I would, you know, follow the same diet as Virat Kohli. Okay, all these things. My whole life was just trying to follow what he was doing. Okay, and so similarly, the scriptures give us inspirations about who we want to actually be, where our real happiness is. And there's so many examples that actually, it's actually a flood of examples, to be honest. There's endless examples, endless pastimes of just people who have been in our situations. And this is a nice thing about these role models. They've been in our situations. It's not like they're some lofty people. They are lofty, but Krishna uses them in a way so that they actually come into our own situations. You know, how many of us have been in a dilemma in our life where we don't know what to do? Just, you know, all of us have. So similarly, similar situation to Arjuna. So what we do is when we hear these scriptures, we can try to see, how can I relate to this? How can I see myself in what's being said? How do I see myself in this battlefield that Arjuna is saying? That, okay, I need to fight against all these people. For us, it may not be a physical fight. Well, hopefully not. But it may be a fight in terms of we have to act in a certain way that people won't like us. We may have to act against family members, which is beneficial for us, which is actually going to be for our own benefit. We may have to act against friends, you know? And so what this then means is that we're all in a similar situation to Arjuna as well. And there are so many examples like this from the books that Srila Prabhupada's given us, where we can, just by hearing, just by spending some time with these books, by spending some time to these lectures, we can then also feel inspired, inclined, and also feel that actually this is possible. I can also attain these things as well. It's not just something which is unknown to me. But actually these things are possible for all of us, you know. So that was just one point. Yeah. Then according to the verse, another thing. Shishi Radha Gokula Nanda ki jai. Shishi Gaurnitai ki jai. Shishi Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman ki jai. Then according to the verse, Srila Prabhupada, what he says is that he gives this example of Arjuna. And what he says is, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. And so Kshatriyas are naturally inclined to fight. They're meant to be determined, courageous, and all these kind of things. And in this case, what's happening is Arjuna's fighting against his nature. And this point really stood out to me because it's like, how is it that one acts against one's own nature? Isn't that so difficult? I was just thinking of the example. It's like, have you ever had your favorite food? And you know, you come home and, you know, mum's cooked the favorite food or someone's cooked the favorite food. And then for some reason or another, have you ever had it where you don't feel inclined to eat it? No, you always feel inclined to eat that food. You always go and sit down and go like, yeah, I'm going to eat that. But what's being said here, and that's like our nature. Our nature is our natural tendencies, okay? But what's being said here is that Arjuna acts against that. And the reason that he says that, Srila Prabhupada says, is that he says that all these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. So what this is saying is that by being a great devotee of the Lord, we can experience a higher pleasure from within, and by experiencing this higher pleasure from within, the external things that we've been searching for, we don't actually have to act according to them. In the Nectar of Instruction, one of the verses that, in one of the texts, Nectar of Instruction, that Srila Prabhupada's given us, it's basically a list of instructions by Srila Rupa Goswami, who's one of our previous teachers. And the first verse basically describes about how one who can tolerate the urges of the mind, body, genitals, and the urges of tongue, belly, genitals, and then the actions of anger, and then tongue, belly, genitals, urges of the mind, anger, and one who can basically tolerate all these urges, so they don't actually act according to them. So they may feel the urge, but they don't act according to them. And one may ask, how is that possible? How is it that one doesn't feel the need to act according to these things? And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this param drisvarna vartate, which means that one is experiencing a higher taste, a higher happiness from within, so that all these bodily things or even mental things, they don't feel a need to indulge in them. It doesn't mean that they may still carry on going, but they don't feel a need to act on them, you know? And so then this again directs us to how do we kind of get to this stage? And Srila Prabhupada is saying that this stage of being a devotee, in this particular verse, he says that one who has these qualities, one who can tolerate all these urges, they have the qualification to be able to instruct others in the spiritual matters, to become a spiritual master, and what that means is that anyway, yeah. And so then there's a verse in another text called the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the verse is 5:18-12. And basically what it describes is how all these kind of great qualities we look up to of self-control, not acting according to how we don't want to, all these kind of things, actually, they're all manifestations of one who has unalloyed devotion to the Lord. And why is that the case? Why is it that one who has unalloyed devotion to the Lord has all these wonderful qualities? And actually because it's that the Lord himself is the manifestation of all these qualities, you know? What that means is that when we come to the temple, we may have associated with devotees, maybe not so much, but sometimes we may have seen certain devotees, or we spent even just glimpses of time, and we see that, wow, they're so kind, they're so well-wishing, you know, they're so determined on their path, they have all these wonderful qualities, and naturally don't we feel attracted to spend time with them? You know, you see them and you're like, wow, I really want to spend more time with them. They're so kind. They know what they're saying. You know, all these kind of things. They're determined on their path. They speak the truth. you know, they're well-wishing to me, all these things. And then naturally we feel inclined to want to spend time with these kind of people. And the reason that is actually because the natural relationship or the natural happiness of the soul, the real self, is actually to be with Krishna. And because Krishna is the source of all these qualities, we then are attracted to spend time with all these personalities who have Krishna in their heart. We all have Krishna in their heart, but they have realized Krishna in their heart. He's actually acting from within. And so we naturally feel these desires to want to spend time with these kind of people, just because this is a manifestation of the happiness of the person who we're all searching after, you know. And then there's a nice part in this, because as we said, that all these qualities that are being manifested, they're actually a manifestation of Krishna's qualities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's another verse which basically, I think it's Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 17th chapter, 17th verse. And what it describes is how the relationship that the Pandavas experience with Krishna. And what it describes is that Krishna, he becomes captivated by the qualities, by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. And because he's captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, he then becomes submissive to them. You know? And just think about that just for a second. He's captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. He's the source of those qualities. It's not that these qualities are something separate. They're actually his own qualities. But he's captivated by them. And he's completely absorbed in thinking about them, so much so that he becomes submissive to their orders. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Master of everything. Imagine that. You're in control of everything. You know, we speak about this relationship in our scriptures. It says this relationship between Krishna and the living entity, all of us, is that we're meant to be the servants and Krishna's the master. He's the enjoyer. But Krishna's enjoyment comes in seeing the glories of his devotees. That's his enjoyment. He relishes seeing the glories of his devotees. Who is this Lord that we're looking for, that we may not even realize we're looking for? And so Krishna becomes captivated by the qualities of his devotees, and then that's just the start of it, because we're just about to have a festival tomorrow, Snan Yatra, and this is basically the bathing of Lord Jagannath. And in a couple of weeks' time, we'll have the Rath Yatra festival, where Lord Jagannath is dragged all along London, and he's brought by his devotees. And this past summer, Lord Jagannath, actually, there's a kind of a deeper insight into it. And basically, what happens is that Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, they're hearing the pastimes of their own devotees in Vrindavan. They're in Kurukshetra at the time, and what's happening is they're hearing the pastimes of what they were doing with their devotees in Vrindavan. And they were hearing about all these exchanges, all these loving dealings that they had. And what happens is they became stunned in ecstasy. So when you see Jagannath and when you see Balaram, you see their arms are kind of pulled back, you know, in their forms. And the reason that is because they're stunned in ecstasy. And what does this stunned in ecstasy mean? Because we may have heard ecstatic, all these things, but what does it mean? Imagine that you've, and you've sometimes seen it, if you've been trying to, like sometimes you have in the kind of secular world, you have like, people are just like so, like I gave the example of Virat Kohli before. Some people are just so obsessed with famous people that when they meet these people, they've been like thinking about them so much, when they meet them, they just faint, you know? These are real things where they just meet these people they've been thinking about for so long, and then they just faint. So similarly, the Lord is thinking about his devotees, and in that way he's becoming stunned. So that means the Lord's thinking about all of you, and he's becoming stunned. This is the person we're all looking for, you know. And so this festival of Rath Yatra is actually, anyway, we won't go into that, but this is just one example of the kind of sweet dealings that is actually available for all of us to have with the Lord. And so ultimately, what's kind of being offered here is something very, very priceless. And another example of this kind of sweetness of the Lord is how in the Srimad Bhagavatam it says that the demons who were killed who weren't killed in Kurukshetra. Actually, it said that So it said that everyone at Kurukshetra was killed, or the demons who were killed. The result of them being killed was that they all got liberation, or they attained their own spiritual form. So imagine that you're fighting against someone. You're personally fighting against someone, and just because of their kindness, just because of their good qualities, they still accept you. So this is our relationship with Krishna. In the sense, we've ignored him for so many lifetimes, we've forgotten him for so long. But just because we may have just come to the temple, maybe someone told us to come to the temple, maybe it's even unconscious, he still accepts that. And he'll bring us to that higher stage. And so what it says is that when Krishna left the planet, there were still many demons that were around. And it says what happened was when they died, they all got bodies of brahmanas, it says. And this is really interesting because we think about brahmanas and we think that, okay, a brahmana is someone who's, very, very scholarly. They have a lot of insight into the Vedas. They have all these kind of things. They're very religious. They follow the principles. But what's being said is that in a previous birth, they were demonic. They were acting directly against Krishna. And so the question is, how is that going on? Because Krishna says that, whatever you contemplate, you'll attain that birth in the next life and all these kind of things. But what we don't see is there's also a layer of mercy that's going on. And this mercy is that actually it's Krishna who's dealing. So what that means is any small good thing, any small sense of devotional service that one does, that Krishna remembers that and he exemplifies that. And he says this in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that with any effort, any effort on this path, there's no loss or diminution. So that means if you just make a slight progress on this path, Krishna remembers that and he'll give you that position and even greater than that position. And why I was using this example just because so many of us kind of come from a background of where this culture, where we've been so exposed from such a young age to Krishna consciousness, but maybe we haven't taken so much advantage of it. There may have been so much exposure, so much luxury of having this wisdom, just even knowing about Krishna. Think about how many people in this world. There's 8 billion people just on this planet, and you're just one of them who knows about Krishna. And so then the question is, how much are we actually taking advantage of that? It's like if you have a jewel, but you then mistake it for something which is basically useless, and you just leave it with everything else. Okay, yeah, maybe it's something I do at the weekend, maybe it's something that I'll do in a bit, but we don't really understand the importance of that. So there's a deep onus for each and every one of us to take responsibility to really experience this. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the things he said was that he wanted all Indians. He actually said Indian-bodied people, and he said that because Krishna is so much instilled in that culture, he said any Indian-bodied person, they should becoming a spiritual master around the whole world and preach the glories of the Lord around the whole world. And that doesn't actually. And Srila Prabhupada gave a caveat to that statement, because he said that because the Indian-bodied people didn't do it, what happened was that ISKCON is now doing that. So that means anyone in ISKCON should then go around the world and preach the glories of the Lord. And this is obviously a very lofty statement. We have to go around the world and preach the glories. But that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the underlying principle is that if one is preaching these glories around the world, it means someone's taken this very seriously. One has dedicated their lives to this mission. And so what this means is that for each and every one of us, that we should try to take this message very seriously. And just contemplate a bit more. How can I instill a bit more of this in my life? If this is something that I've heard, I may have had some exposure to, and I feel there is something here. And maybe I've also experienced something in this world that, okay, this world isn't doing it for me. Maybe there's something more here. Maybe there's something more I can do. Maybe I can seek out certain devotees who I can speak to more. Maybe I can start reading the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I can start chanting Hare Krishna. All these different things. So yeah, these are just a few thoughts on this text. And yeah, we have 10 minutes left. So if anyone had any questions or comments or criticisms, then yeah, please do feel free to share. Yes, yeah.
You mentioned about the battlefield.
Yes.
Does it mean that our plane is compared, our lives in general is compared with constant battle?
Yeah.
Like there is no sort of holiday type of life. I'm trying to understand
Yeah.
how is this world being manifested as a constant struggle,
Yeah.
or some people can have rest from struggle?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Srila Prabhupada says in his purports, I don't know exactly where, but he says that this material life is a struggle for existence. And you said, you gave an example because you said that actually there are some people, for them it's a rest. And I know what you're saying maybe people who have a lot of money, they don't have to worry about these kind of things. But the funny thing is, if you actually look at those people, sometimes they're even worse off than us. And the reason I say that is because, I'll give an example. There are certain people who live in I think it's in America, where they have certain kind of millionaires and billionaires. What they have the children, okay, and some of the children, they're embarrassed to go outside. And you're thinking their lives are completely secure, they have no financial difficulties. They're actually embarrassed to go outside. And the reason they're embarrassed to go outside is because they feel that, there are other millionaires and billionaires who have more than me. I feel embarrassed to go outside. So what this means is that for every single one of us, there's going to be challenges and difficulties. It doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world. It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful wife or the most beautiful husband. It doesn't matter what you have. There's always going to be difficulties. They just come in different forms and shapes, but they're of the same source. Yeah. So what you're saying is right, that this life is gonna be a battlefield in a sense. But there's a sweetness in this, is because basically what happens is, although Arjuna's on this battlefield, but he has Krishna as his guide. He's got Krishna as his charioteer. So what that means for each and every one of us is that even though we have all our difficulties and challenges going on, we have an option to turn to Krishna. And when we turn to Krishna, what actually happens is he then gets involved in our life. When he gets involved in your life, he then actually starts to communicate with you. He starts to speak with you. He starts to help you. And you'll start to see those signs that happen in your life. And even though you're going through difficulties, what will then happen in your life is that you don't feel the need to escape difficulties. Because most of us are escaping difficulties. But then what actually happens is the difficulties then become a source of adventure. Because then you go into the difficulties and see, Krishna's behind all of this. How can I find Krishna in this situation? So it becomes a real beautiful adventure. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he's the adventure. And what this means is that one understanding is that actually if we take to this Krishna consciousness, we'll have a real adventure in our life. It's very exciting. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Anyone else have any questions, comments, criticisms? No? Okay. Then, okay. Then what we'll do is we can, maybe what we can do is we can have kirtan for a few minutes. And then what will happen is maybe we'll just stop at maybe 6:58, 6:59. And then what will happen is we'll have arati. So I'm sure that's why so many people have come. So we'll just have some kirtan for a few minutes. And then, we can then carry on. Oh. How can we see Krishna? Yes, yeah. So, it's a great question. Krishna's always there. It's just sometimes, as you said, we don't have the vision to see him. There's a nice pastime I heard once, and what it said was that there was a brahmana, or no, I don't know if it was a brahmana. Anyway, what happened was that there was someone kind of walking on a path, and Krishna basically told them that I will always be with you on that path. And then what happened was the person knew that Krishna was there when he saw the footprints. He saw Krishna's footprints in front of him, so he knew Krishna was there. So he always felt like complete kind of safety. But then what happened was there were some times where he didn't see the footprints anymore. Oh no, he saw two sets of footprints, that was it. He saw two sets of footprints. He saw his own footprints and he saw Krishna's footprints. And then what happened was there were some times that he was going through these situations and then he only saw one set of footprints. And then when he got to his destination, he was just like, whoa, Krishna, what happened? You said you were going to be there for me, but there was so much that happened in that time. And I was the only one there. I only saw my own footprints. And you know what Krishna said? You do know. Yeah. No, it's fine. But Krishna basically said that actually I was carrying you through those times. So that means to the degree we take shelter of the practices of Krishna consciousness, actually we should know in our hearts that actually Krishna's always there. You know? And the way we come to that realization and understanding is through our sadhana, through deep spiritual practice. What will happen is that we actually, that realization becomes a realized fact in our heart, where regardless of this external situation, we'll experience in our heart, no, this is actually Krishna's under control. So yeah, it requires a deep spiritual practice to be able to come to that realization. I hope that helps. Yeah, okay. Any other questions, comments? Or? Yeah.
You know, sister, you know you are looking for Krishna. You know you said you wanted to see Krishna. How you can see Krishna. So brother said like through your sadhana. And so one thing that may help is through service. You know, they say service to man is service to God. So when you serve man, look for the divinity within. Then you will see Krishna that you're searching for, because he is resident in everyone.
Yes, yeah, very good. Best first steps for best sadhana. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada, he gives us like a nice kind of formula. So what he does is, he's not only did he do this for the temple programs, but he also states this in his book that the morning times are the best times for our spiritual practice. So before the day starts, if we use that time to absorb ourselves in our chanting, in our study of spiritual wisdom, or hearing these texts, we'll have a certain strength into our day, and not just that, but what happens is in the morning time, the environment's a lot more peaceful because there's a lot more of the mode of goodness. And so mode of goodness means that it's very conducive to our spiritual practice. And I'm sure we've all experienced that. Even if we've not done spiritual practices, if we wake up early in the morning and do anything, we'll all have this experience that, wow, it's so peaceful, it's so quiet, it's so nice. Why do I feel like, I feel very light in the mornings. I don't feel this pressure and burden of the day. So yeah, that's just one example. Then some other things is that if some people like doing it with other devotees, if you do your spiritual practice with other devotees, it also has a certain potency, because it's like if you're trying to go towards a goal and you have all the other people around you going towards that same goal, it has a certain potency and frequency to that, if that makes some sense. That's why when we come to the temple, I'm sure we've all experienced it, there's a certain energy to this environment, no? There's something special. We may not be able to say exactly what it is, but we all understand that there's something here which is special. I can't put my finger on it, but that's what draws me. So yeah, that's another thing, just doing it in spiritually charged environments. Does that help? Okay. Thank you for your question. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? No? Last takers? Okay, that's okay. Okay, so I think what we'll do is then we'll just set up for the arati. But yeah, thank you guys all for coming. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.